So, I've been involved in the OCaml community for a long time now. I and all of James have been using OCaml professionally for about a decade. And for a lot of that time, we have been looking for ways to try and improve and grow the OCaml world. The core of OCaml is a fantastic language and a great community. But there are lots of missing pieces. There are ways in which OCaml has lagged behind. And we've been excited for years now to try and find ways of doing that. And it's been kind of hard to figure out what's a good leverage point. Right? What is a way that we can kind of pour resources, and one resource that we can obviously the resource of our time and our code is something we've been in recent time doing more in a more public way. But also there's just funding, right? Ways of funding more work and pushing more innovation into the compiler, and also pushing more work on the grotty dull bits that are important and absolutely need to be done. So one of the things we've done is we've been working with OCaml Pro, and I think that work has been really very good. I think that one thing that I'm particularly jumping up and down excited about is the work on OCaml, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But OCaml Pro's focus is, I think, in many ways as a commercial services company, and we wanted to do some stuff that we think fits more naturally in another kind of organization. So we have been working to found a new research lab called OCaml Labs, whose kind of main focus is to develop and improve and kind of help out to grow the OCaml world. And we're doing this at Cambridge with Anil Madhavapin. And so we want to talk a little bit about the idea behind there and kind of what our plans are.
So I think a lot of the history behind OCaml Labs started in a bar last year in Tokyo, in fact. And so Ron and I were sitting there, and we decided to write a book. And as with any such project, you begin really fast. And we started writing a book. We had 8 chapters in about 2 weeks. Really running like crazy. And it only becomes obvious how difficult it is to explain something to when you try to write it down in a book, because a lot of us here have spent a lot of time using OCaml over the years. I've been using it for about 10 or 12 years. Ron's been using it for longer. And we built up a lot of kind of internal knowledge that we just do without really thinking about it. And it became obvious that if we wanted to expand the community to a much bigger scale, we need to have a much more consistent story for people. We need to increase the accessibility of the OCaml ecosystem. Not just in terms of packaging systems and so on, but documentation, tool chains. There's a whole bunch of work that needs to be done. And so this is not something that there's anything wrong in one specific area. It's more a case of building the entire foundation. As Xavier noted in his talk, we want to increase the general accessibility of everything and push it up. And so since last year, I've been spending a lot more time working with OCaml Pro, actually, with Thomas. And we've been collaborating for a long time on OCaml-related projects. So we've been working on, obviously, I used to work at Citrix, and we've been working on a very big cloud platform that is used by the majority of cloud providers now, which is a very, very big use of OCaml. And as for research projects, we've been working on very experimental operating systems and very low-level things, for which OCaml is a very well-suited tool. And when it comes to releasing these research projects, which are big chunks of code, and indeed a lot of the Zen code is open source, we start hitting these problems as well. So the goal of OCaml Labs is very simple. We're a group based in the University of Cambridge. So instead of a research lab that's separate, we're embedding it within the computer laboratory. And the computer lab is one of the oldest computer science laboratories in the world. It used to be the mathematical laboratory in Cambridge, which goes back a long way. And we're basing it inside the programming language and systems group. So the programming language side is headed by Alan Mycroft, who's a professor that a lot of you would have worked with in the past. And I'm personally in the systems group, where we build big complex systems, we engineer them, and we often release them as open source software. Now, one of the most important things of all this is that there's a clean separation between the work we're doing, which is half research and half non-commercial, just engineering for the open source community, and of course the work that OCaml Pro is doing, which will hopefully become increasingly commercial and working with a lot of clients. OCaml Pro has done an amazing job so far of doing service for the community. They've been just doing systems like OCaml and so on that are just helping everyone, and we're going to continue to work with them, but hopefully take over a lot of the day-to-day boring stuff that just needs to be maintained for the long term. And as part of this, we don't just want to play catch-up. We also want to try to really innovate in this space. So for example, we've been talking about, I was having dinner with the Haskell guys trying to figure out what went right and what went wrong with the Haskell platform. And so we have a lot of friendly people around the bigger functional programming community to get some ideas from. So for example, we're discussing Windows support, and we thought it'd be very cool if you could upload packages to the OCaml platform and have it automatically run in virtual machines, so you could test it in multiple operating systems for you. So it's the sort of thing where I don't have FreeBSD or Windows installed all the time, but I'd love it if my packages would just be tested and emailed to me regularly for regular releases. So this sort of continuous integration, continuous build, could just make our lives easier on a day-to-day basis and just remove a lot of the barriers for doing this work. And so the other really nice thing about Cambridge is that it's kind of the other OCaml center where we have a lot of companies, especially, and a lot of research users that use OCaml in quite a big way. So in addition to the computer lab, we have Citrix, who's a huge user. We have Microsoft Research, who actually ship OCaml with a lot of their products, and ARM, for example, Wojciech works at ARM, that use it in a number of areas. So I kind of hope to build more of a community critical mass as we go along as well. So I'll hand over back to Ron just to. So the other thing I want to say is that we haven't really made any firm, strict plan. The goal of the platform is not to make decisions, but to just make it easy for the community to decide what you want. So we're going to try to package up, support multiple standard libraries, just try to figure out, let the users vote for what they decide they want to do, and consensus will hopefully emerge at the end of the first year. If consensus fails to emerge, then we'll take stronger action. But I'm hoping that, essentially, we're going to try to figure out what to do. There's a lot of desire, especially within Citrix right now, to just. It doesn't matter which choice we choose. It doesn't matter if we choose core or LWT or batteries, but we do have to make a decision and decide and just make sure we can unify code bases. Because obviously there's bigger problems to worry about than the intricate details of which standard library we use, and there's business problems to be solved as well. So the desire is just to spend the next year or two especially just taking a decision, whatever that decision is, and making sure it's public and everyone's happy with it, and just moving on to doing something more interesting than worrying about standard libraries for the next 10 years of OCaml. So, and of course, email me anytime. We're obviously hiring quite aggressively for this at all levels. So in addition to a lot of support from Jane Street, we also have support from Citrix, from a number of, from the Horizon research councils in the UK, and also from a number of EU projects and so on. We figured if we're doing this, let's combine a lot of research efforts and just put a lot of momentum behind this. So we're going to be hiring about 6 to 8 positions within the university, and they'll be a lot of fun, all the way from PhD level applications to internships, if you just want to visit for a little while and hang out and get to know the team and make your opinions heard, all the way up to senior research positions as well. So if you're in any way interested in hacking on OCaml, either just for engineering and not worrying about research on a day-to-day basis, or if you want to have a blend of research and interesting open source coding, get in touch right now. And that's assuming, of course, you don't want to work at a bank or go work at Citrix or work at Microsoft. University is way more fun. We pay a lot worse.
Not a bank.
Not a bank, okay. Also, I'm going to learn what James does by the end of this.
Right. So, and our main role here has been to kind of help in figuring out what the vision is, and also obviously providing kind of core of the funding for the event. But as Anil, kind of from our early conversations, has been very excited about trying to make this not just about Jane Street's funding, to try and find other ways to bring in other kind of efforts, both contributions of time from various companies and contributions of funds. And so the goal is to really try and build a lot of energy and excitement around OCaml using this. So in terms of the kind of things we hope the labs can accomplish, I think first and foremost is a real OCaml platform. To be clear, this is not a thing that the OCaml will do on its own. Like, the most exciting component of this to arrive has been the work of OCaml Pro on OCaml, which is, I think, so good. Like, the talk about it, like, I gave a tutorial this year. Anil, I gave a tutorial about core and async, and basically, I did a tutorial last year also, and basically half the tutorial last year was installing a grab bag of tar balls. And then at the end of that half of the tutorial, half the people had it installed. It was a disaster. This year, it just worked. It was shocking. So I think that taking that kind of base technology and building on top of it a real high quality platform with all the kind of integration and testing and organization and all the kind of boring work of making that thing run well, I think can be important and can be transformative for OCaml. I think we also want an even better compiler. I think that there are lots of things that people want to do, and there are a limited number of hands to do it. And I think there are two ways OCaml Labs can help. One is there are people who can try and come up with new ideas and improvements to the compiler itself. There's going to be a lot of engineering work. One of the things that I think is important is to have better inlining, better cross-module optimizations, and various things that can get rid of allocations. Right? Allocations are very expensive, even though they're very cheap in OCaml, but like, if you look at where you can make it faster, there are terrible hacks we've done to reduce allocations for huge speed improvements. So I think there's a lot of juice to be had there, and there's real research work to getting that done. There's also a lot of sort of hard nose to the grindstone work, like the stuff that Damien has been doing in terms of getting releases to roll. And I think the idea of trying to figure out how OCaml can take some of the load off of the core team and smooth the development process and make it easier for new proposals for change to the compiler to be tested effectively and integrated effectively and managed, and for there to be someone there with all of this work to hold the back. Right? I think Xavier has historically been rightly worried about people coming and saying, "Oh, I have a great new idea, let's do some stuff," and then wander off. Right? And one of the core missions of OCaml Labs is not to wander off. And to help focus the community, I think that we have lots of ways of doing things. We have lots of ways of dealing with packages. We have lots of ways of doing all sorts of things. And to help kind of organize and kind of help the community come together to pick the right way of doing things is, I think, an important role for a place like OCaml Labs. Also, a better public face. Like, to be clear, lots of this work is done by other people. All of this work we're talking about is stuff that's collaborative already. But in terms of where to place energy, things like OCaml's website and online materials. I think a ton of great work has been done by Esther and Ashish and Christophe, and also with the help by OCaml Pro and for other people who are figuring out to kind of try and build up a new website. And I think that work has been great, and I think that work needs to be continued. We really need to have a kind of a website and a web presence that does makes us look like a real community, with the kind of reflecting the quality of the technology that's really there. And with all of this, from the beginning, both I and Emil want this to be a public process whose results are open source. Like, this is not, like, Jinxie does not want to build like some weird closed world commercial version of the compiler. We do not want to fork, right? We do not. We want to help pour energy into the one community we have. It's small enough as it is. We don't need to make it smaller. And so that is kind of a foundational bit about what we want to do. So there's a bunch of stuff about getting involved, which I think Emil has basically already said. We're planning on starting in November. We want to hear people's opinions. We want people to be involved in the kind of public discussions. I mean, it's not like OCaml Labs is taking over decision making, but to the degree that that OCaml Labs is trying to figure things out, it wants people's involvement. You obviously writing of code and actually producing more of the technology is welcome, and OCaml Labs will be hiring. But probably run over, but we're still in line. We'd be happy to answer questions.